Okay, so this is the airbrush that I use. I just bought this in China and it was so cheap. I just use like this type of paint. It's like acrylic paint, watered down, just water. Doesn't have, but it'll look just slightly darker than the paint that's on here right now. Okay. Too much on there. The problem with working with non-airbrush paint is you can get it a little too watery and you might go too quickly. I like to build up the colors pretty slowly. Subtlety. Okay, it might not look like much is happening, but trust me, this is gonna look much different. The way I work, a lot of people buy airbrush paints, but I found that like if I just use acrylics, like any kind of paint works. You just have to make sure. Like I mix everything. This is all house paint. You can get any colors you want that way. It's cheap. It's not durable. But for my purposes, it doesn't matter at all. I just tear these down and I'm done. These backups aren't meant to last. I've gotten on this thing, like, I used to be all about like creating like brightest colors and stuff because it looks so cool, but I'm kind of taking that back now in the new work and trying to just go more subtle. If I'm not attempting to go subtle throughout the whole thing, I go too crazy. Problem. An easy way to get the paint out, if it's clogged, cover the tip and pull the trigger. I use a Coca-Cola bottle. This is just with some soapy water. Shoot it out into a bucket. Good. I'm going to be doing other colors, so I just want that to be clean. Clean enough. Okay, good. Now on to the next color. Good. Alright, the next color we're going to do is the darker part of this pink. What I'm going to do for this. Oh, that's too much paint. Too much water. Possibly. I'm going to do a little more pink and a little blue, about like that. with the airbrush. I go back and cover these white lines. Let clean up the edge. The worst part about this house paint, it doesn't cover very well, so it's better to get the higher quality. Better to get the higher quality house paint. When I was in graduate school, I usually, well, even undergrad, I would get that Walmart house paint. That is the worst. I still got it though, because you could get it by the pint or the quart or pint or whatever. You can get it so cheap. But usually for the white, I would still get the higher quality stuff. Because if it doesn't cover well, it really sucks. I don't want to do this detailing 2 times. So this will just have to do. I went to the shop in Beijing, to the art store, and the guy tried to upsell me some brushes. He said, "Oh, check out Bu Hao." It's like not good. I'm like, "Oh," he's like recommending this other brush, and I was like, "Oh, I want the bad one," because you see this, like you're gonna probably be like, "Man, he's so sloppy." For my work, it doesn't matter how nice the brush is, because the great thing about these backdrops, they shrink from, a meter in this will be like maybe a foot when I print it big. So the proportions will kind of get all these blemishes to go away, and the imperfections. And hopefully this, when I print it big, you'll be able to see the poor brush strokes. These are meant to be magnificent paintings. I'm more interested in the models and the people's faces. Okay guys, so you can see my use of the airbrush is pretty subtle. I try to keep it as simple as possible for my backdrop images, as to not distract from my models and the subjects in front of the backdrops. But using the airbrush, it's great. It allows me to create the nice soft 3-dimensional effect with the paint. So that's basically how I work. I do everything very simple, mix all the paint myself, and use acrylics mixed with house paint and water. So if you have an airbrush and you're going to be using one, don't be afraid to run whatever kind of paint you want through there, as long as it's a kind of a milky consistency. Alright guys, we'll see you next time.